Welcome back, everybody. This is James Felton Keith with Inclusion Score. I wanted to take a moment to try and answer some of the questions that we've been getting about my latest article in Forbes. If you're not familiar, I write about the shift in DEI to standardization and professionalization. And specifically, we talk about the ISO 30415 standard. I'm actually giving a talk on this in a few hours today, but I thought before I do that, let me do this video. I'll provide some links to the article in this video afterwards. But what we see in the market at Inclusion Score and at the Diverse Inclusion Service Management Forum, which we just held 2 weeks ago in Georgia, is a broadening of standardization and professionalization. And in the article, I talk about the core innovations of the ISO 30415 standard. It really does four interesting things, and that it categorizes every piece of the DEI ecosystem so that any organization, no matter what kind of organization you are, you can deliver inclusivity as a business service, as service management, just like you would anything else. And so just to break down those four innovations or those four things, is the standard breaks out all DEI activity into four service types, meaning anything you deliver from a DE&I standpoint is a service. You're either training people to do something they don't know about, you're collecting data. A good example of this is demographic data, sentiment analysis. You're building internal infrastructure. A good example of that is like having a D&I officer, building employee resource groups, you name it. And last but not least is external infrastructure, joining trade associations or chambers of commerce or running marketing campaigns, or you name it. And so those categorization of the services that are offered across many types of companies and people across the industry are really the core innovation. And they spread those across the four functional categories of any organization. And those are governance, things you do with your executives; human resources, things you do with your employees; product delivery, things you do whether you offer a tangible or intangible product; and last but not least, supplier diversity, or what is usually procurement. The deal is, what we're seeing in the market is that you can overlay any of these four service types over the four functional categories, which is what this standard is. It's a functional standard. So it's looking at the operations, the function of a business, not just, what it might feel like to have parity of varied sorts. It's looking at those across the 27 diversity types, which are protected classes. So there are 27 types of protected classes, not just gender and race, but age and parent type and neurodivergence and so many other things. And it's playing those across the 11 business sectors that the stock market tracks. So everyone's industry or micro industry falls into these categories. This is really important because when we think about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging as a service, when we think about broadly workforce resilience, it doesn't matter what's happening politically here in the United States or anywhere else. People exist. They will exist tomorrow. And as we try to better engage them, either as employees or customers, we will need to deliver a cadre of services across this map that you see here on the screen in order to engage them well and make sure we maximize what the market may, right? And so going forward, the standard allows entities that are considering how they deliver DEI to be able to do that as a service catalog, if you will, bit by bit, piece by piece, service offering by service offering. So for instance, right, if you know people who deliver trainings like Clifton Strengths training, if you're not familiar with Clifton Strengths, it doesn't matter. Let's just call it a type of training. It fits firmly, as you can see, in the training category overlay with governance. You usually give this to leaders and thinkers or people who are aspiring to be at an organization. If you're thinking about, how to manage your supplier diversity data and understand which suppliers are sourceable, and you name it. You may be using an app like SAP's Ariba. That name is even a bit problematic, but and if it's not that one, it's one of their competitors. It's something like it, right? There are many of these apps that exist that are at varied costs for varied types of businesses or sizes of business. If you're thinking about just broader knowledge around supplier diversity, and you're in the United States specifically, you may be using the National Minority Supplier Diversity Council, or the NMSDC, as an advisory sounding board. Again, that's in external infrastructure specific to supplier diversity. If you're thinking about one of the most notable organizations that people normally think about when they think about DEI, which is the Society for Human Resources Management, you'll notice they only fit in training around human resources. Sure, they offer some other professional society resources that may fit in external or internal infrastructure. Maybe they do some data collection or fit in data extraction, but formally they go in that area. If you're building employee resource groups, they are not a function of human resources, not at least not directly, but indirectly they're advisory boards. And there's so many organizations that specialize in just how to develop and deploy them, even though sometimes companies can develop them organically. My point in building out this graphic is to show you how institutions might deploy efforts to do any of the many things that sum up diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. If you're thinking about sourcing in new suppliers just in your product ranks across your company, and you don't think you have access to suppliers or know where they are, companies like supplier.io on the West Coast are in play. There are, again, bunches and bunches of these companies that exist. If you're thinking about external infrastructure and advisory boards, and you're in the engineering space, and you think about organizations like the National Society for Black Engineers, or NSBE as it's called, they formally impact and advise on governance at organizations that are hiring or seeking to hire Black engineers. They're an equivalent organization for other types of engineers, for women, for other portions of the 27 protected classes, or what we call the 27 diversity types in the standard. And so again, this innovation of categorizing everything that we deliver with regards to DEI across the just spectrum of activity is the real innovation of allowing us to speak the same language as we look across industry, as we look across region, as we look across company type. Here at Inclusion Score, we track about 1,500 different DEI service providers that an organization, might deploy at any given point in time. It's a ridiculously large number of service providers. Some big companies that we all know, some not so big companies that we're, again, just not familiar with. But that's what the article details in Forbes. Again, I'll supply a link to it. But again, where DEI is going, whether it's called workforce resilience or DEI or something else tomorrow, will be a place of standardization around the ISO 30415 consensus. The point in having standards is that we all use similar language to agree on how we might deploy solutions to problems that are identifiable. And so this is the next wave of organizational inclusivity that you can all anticipate, no matter what country or what industry or what region you work in. So more to come on that. If you have any questions, feel free to send us an email or drop us a comment, and we'll try to respond promptly. Thank you.